Except for the fact that he is the manager of a bookshop and a gift shop in Caracas, his neighbors don't know much about him. Because he was Spanish, he could fit in perfectly in his new environment. But the man's story is much longer and deeper than that. When he was a young man under 30, he wanted to do something for humanity, so he became a spy for the British. He distinguished himself by his broad imagination in deceiving the Nazis. For the benefit of governments or organizations, they gather and analyze sensitive information. They carry out covert operations, infiltration, and other forms of surveillance to obtain information about prospective threats or to their advantage. Because of the often secretive nature of their employment, it calls for extreme discretion and professionalism. They could work covertly or assume different identities. They need a high level of skill, training, and mental toughness for their work, which can be dangerous. Their practice frequently involves emotional deceit and manipulation. Juan Pujol Garcia was born on February 14, 1912, in Barcelona. His mother was Mercedes Boyar Garcia, from Montreal, and his father was Juan Pujol, the proprietor of a dyeing business. He took his full name from Pujol Garcia, his parents. Because of his poor academic performance, he abandoned the class and tried his hand at a variety of jobs. He was a young man 24 when the Spanish Civil War began in 1936, and he owned a chicken farm that was eventually seized and was headed for bankruptcy. Up until April 1, 1939, the eve of the start of World War II, that conflict raged on. The general Spanish political climate had an important share and influence on the Spanish. And that war made multiple fronts, including class and religious conflict, including confrontation of clashing nationalities, and all of this had an impact on the economic situation and the souls. Juan Pujol Garcia emerged from the conflict with strong hate for fanaticism in all of its guises and incarnations. Because of the horrible experiences he had in the two camps of the Civil War, he harbored intense resentment. He was averse to both fascism and communism, hence he was against Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union. After being released from the military, he met Araceli Gonzalez in Burgos, and the two eventually were married in Madrid. She was a stunning young woman 2 years his junior, and they had a lot in common in terms of attitudes and beliefs. When the Nazis took over Paris in 1940, beginning to emerge were indications of the new war's immense destruction. Araceli Gonzalez and Juan Pujol Garcia decided to relocate and take action for the sake of humanity. And they are aware that Britain, which was defending Europe alone from the Nazi invasion, will play a crucial role in their efforts to save humanity. Juan Pujol Garcia was adamant that he was capable of performing useful intelligence work. As he knocked on the door of the British Embassy in Madrid in the early days of January 1941, he started his endeavors by volunteering his services to the Brits. He made numerous efforts, some of which involved his wife Araceli Gonzalez. He repeatedly made offers, but the British diplomats refused them. Yet one remained optimistic and chose a different route, dressing as a German intelligence operative. To approach German intelligence, he had to make preparations. He is aware that to do this, he must present the evidence as trustworthy, so he could think of no better way to do this than to pretend to be a Nazi sympathizer working for the Spanish government while also supporting it. He was able to travel to London for business even after convincing the person in charge of one newspaper that he worked at the Spanish embassy in Lisbon. He was able to acquire a phony diplomatic passport. Once he had all the necessary traits of a Spanish government worker who satisfies the requirements of a good spy, he went to meet Federico, the identity of Friedrich Knapp Rattray, an Abwehr intelligence German military operative in Madrid. Juan Pujol Garcia had thorough espionage training from German intelligence, which authorized his recruitment. When the training was over, Juan received a book of codes, a bottle of secret ink, and £600 as payment for his expenditures. He also learned how to write covertly. He was told to travel to Britain and establish an agent network there. He currently works for German intelligence. Juan and his wife vanished from Madrid, but Juan traveled to Portugal instead of London as agreed upon with the German intelligence officers. He settled in the popular tourist destination Estoril. He let the Germans know he was in Britain, and started sending them reports he had written based on information he had gathered from tourist guides as well as news from the movies. He was billing his expenses based on the definitions they included. Those reports appeared to be reliable. Even if the papers he was giving to German intelligence did not actually contain material of genuine worth, British Railways guidance booklets. Juan Pujol was able to establish himself as a reliable agent. He created agents that only exist in his mind, and he created the spy network that he was ordered to create. He makes them do fake and disposable errands and punishes them harshly for even the smallest of mistakes. Juan Pujol, who turned down his offer to work with their intelligence agency, would not escape the attention of the Brits. They ultimately agreed to accept his recruiting. They were prompted to do so by the fact that he was successful in tricking the Nazis. Inaccurate information led the Germans to spend a lot of money following a military flotilla that didn't exist. After meeting Desmond Bristow, the head of the Iberian Division of British intelligence, Pujol was hired by MI6. Juan was given the identity Garbo, and given the task of working with Spanish-speaking British intelligence operative Thomas Harris. Juan stayed with Thomas to continue building his fictitious spy network until the war was over. He was speaking to the Germans, who referred to him in his spy network as Agent Alaric and Arabelle. He uses a radio they gave him to communicate with them after sending them written communications. He ordered to fund 27 agents by German intelligence that they know just names and numbers of them. When the Allies were getting ready for the landings in Normandy, Juan Pujol played a crucial part in the creation of a parallel operation strategy. With Operation Fortitude, the Germans were to be misled over the timing and location of the landings. German intelligence was notified by Pujol, who later turned double agent, that the Pas-de-Calais region would come under Allied bombardment. The Allies were successful in persuading the Nazis to keep the majority of their forces in that area by spreading false information. By using these false reports as justification, the Brits deployed numerous military equipment and vehicle models in areas where they appeared to be targeting the Pas-de-Calais. The German reconnaissance aircraft was flying reconnaissance missions, and based on what it saw, Agent Pujol's information was deemed to be accurate.
Fortitude was a brilliant idea. It could never have been properly executed without Garbo. The overall strategy, unquestionably, was Garbo himself and in his personality.
I think Fortitude was a huge success because it encapsulated everything you need to do in deception.
Along with Thomas Harris, his British commissioner, Pujol stepped up communications with German intelligence. One of these letters, which included at least 2,000 words, was delivered to a Lisbon post office. The Germans' trust in their agent Alaric's network increased as a result of the enormous volume of messages. Moreover, to exert pressure on them to stop hiring new agents for them in Britain. The information he gives to the Germans is a cohesive mix of information that was made up and actual intelligence. That was linked to military operations but had been purposefully delayed or did not have any substantial military significance. Juan Pujol had to account for every delay in receiving information to the Germans discover it too late. Every time he made excuses for his non-existent agents and reported punishing others for failing to do their duty. Once he informed the Germans that his agent in Liverpool had suddenly fallen ill, and that his illness coincided with the sailing of a British fleet from Port of Liverpool, it was not possible to obtain that information. Then he gave the story he invented an unfortunate end. The agent died because of an illness, and in order to give his story credibility, he published the obituary of the deceased client in a local newspaper. Pujol did succeed in persuading the German intelligence, for paying pension payments to the widow of the deceased, who never ever existed. More than that, Juan Pujol once received a reply letter from German intelligence praising all of his reports. Garcia was given several awards, but the German Iron Cross of the Second Degree, which was given to him in his official position, stands out. This honor was given to him in late July of the year 44. Only a small portion of the front ranks was given this medal, which was only given on Adolf Hitler's orders. Also, Pujol was presented with the highest degree of the Order of the British Empire on November 25, 1944, from the hands of King George VI, but he had not shown up to receive the medal. Juan Pujol became with another double agent, Eddie Chapman, the rare doubles that were nominated from two competing and conflicting sides. After the war ended, Juan Pujol Garcia feared for himself and his family from possible revenge from the Nazis, and with the help of the British intelligence MI5, he went to Angola, where a story was told to him that he died as a result of an injury from malaria, which was in 1949. But then he went to Venezuela and resided in Caracas under a false identity. An unknown man ran a bookstore and gift shop. He visited Britain and was received by Prince Philip. He visited Normandy, from where the victory over Germany began. And then in Caracas, where no one knows his story. He died in 1988.